Weirding Way Media.
Welcome to episode 137 of the Filmumentaries Podcast. This is Jamie Benning, your host and sole creator of this podcast. This week I'm joined by sibling filmmakers Claire and Anthony Bueno, the creative team behind the documentary Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters, and the brand new companion book of the same name written by Claire. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, you've probably come across their work already. It's pretty extraordinary, their decade-long labour of love that captures the making of the 1984 classic in amazing detail, through interviews with Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Ernie Hudson, Harold Ramis, Ivan Reitman, and literally dozens more. The Buenos have created what's become the definitive record of how Ghostbusters came to life. In our chat, we talk about how the project began, the naivety and passion that carried them through more than 10 years of work, the challenges of fair use, distribution nightmares, and finally, the thrill of premiering their film at the BFI IMAX here in London. We also discuss Claire's companion book, which expands on the documentary with full transcripts, unseen stories, and a look behind the curtain of how they pulled it all together. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, this podcast is completely independent and only possible thanks to listener support. If you'd like to support the podcast, if you'd like to help me keep making these episodes, please consider joining my Patreon. That's patreon.com/Jamie Benning. You'll get early access to episodes now and again. You'll get a few bits and bobs, extras, and the pleasure of knowing that you're supporting me in making this podcast for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the Filmumentaries YouTube channel, where I'm sharing more clips, some stuff from my archive that hasn't been out there for a while as well. So here's my conversation with Claire and Anthony Bueno, and I'll be back at the end for a bit more jabbering on. Claire and Anthony, it's great to talk to you today. Thanks for your time. I just want to sort of go back to the very genesis of this project, of these projects, the book and the film. When did you first see Ghostbusters, and did you fall in love immediately?
I suppose I should answer it first, because I was the first person in the family to see Ghostbusters. I was 13 or 14, went to the local Odeon cinema in Torquay in Devon, where we grew up. And remember, it was the first time I was allowed to go to the cinema without parental supervision, and sat in the cinema and literally leaped out of my seat with the library ghost. Yeah. And then I just remember looking, at my friends furtively to think if, did they see me, because I was genuinely scared, and then just sort of laughing at myself for being so scared. So, from that, from such a young age, it really did have an impact on me. And then I went home and kind of spread the word. But you took it to a whole other level, didn't you, brother?
Because I did. I absolutely loved it. It was, once I knew it wasn't like really scary horror. So, I was 10. So I would get freaked out by horror films. And like Claire would bring back, the video shop was kind of like on her way back from school. So she would video Mex, which long since disappeared, and bring back, various freaky films. Was one. American Wolf in London, oddly. So horrors freaked me out. And I think I remember seeing, it's probably Top of the Pops, part of the video where it was like the cab driver. Cab driver. And so, ooh. And then goes, oh, no, it's got moments, but it's fine. And then kids would talk about it at school. Stephen Boston, I remember, was the first kid in my class that saw it. I was like, so we went to see it. I'm trying to think who took me. It might have been my dad. I would have thought it was more mom's thing, but I remember the drive home. It's the weirdest things you remember. The car crashing because the car, it was quite icy because we didn't get it till the winter. Yeah, and it was just that, I was 10, so Star Wars and Ghostbusters, He-Man, Knight Rider, all of those things, just like when you're that age, just become it. And so it did. I just for years, it's always been there though with me. I've always loved it. It's always the go-to film that, if it's on telly, even now, after making the doc and the book, if it's on, it's like Ghostbusters, all right, then you just don't watch it because it's just such a gem. So it just never thought we'd be making anything to do with what we're doing now, but it's like just the fact that we have done is amazing.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I saw it around the same age. I'm a little bit younger than you, but I remember also it was the first DVD I ever bought, Ghostbusters, even before I had a DVD player.
Hey, that's the very thing.
Because I heard that the commentary was particularly good, and I heard all this. I was like, what's this commentary thing? Extras. What's this? Because I was a VHS kid like you two, and and it's been with us, our generation, throughout our lives, hasn't it? But what then was that moment where you just decided we need to make a project on this? We need to make a film.
Well, I was doing the red carpet, interviews on the red carpet. So my kind of skills were in front of camera. Anthony's was behind camera. He'd been to film school and he had really enjoyed documentary. And it was literally a case of, why not tie our two skills together and see if we could make a documentary film. And because of a previous project about an American werewolf in London, we'd kind of established a relationship Anthony had with John Landis. So Anthony chose an appropriate moment to ask John Landis whether Dan Aykroyd would be interested in a documentary about Ghostbusters, because Dan Aykroyd he was the genesis of Ghostbusters. You can't really not have a film or a documentary without him. So John was like, "Oh, I can get you Danny," and sure enough, he did come through for us that. So it literally came from it was me interviewing Anthony with his skills behind the camera. Let's marry those two together and let's go and put ourselves on the map as filmmakers.
And originally it was like 25th anniversary is coming round.
Just
weird, like you say about the DVD, was like the 15th anniversary release, which seemed like such a long. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe it's 15. It's amazing. And now we're like, it's 40 years, took it 12 years to make the doc, and it was just like, that is just insane. That I suppose it's an adult thing. You perceive time very differently, like when you're older to when you're younger. But it was just it was just one of those naive. To be honest, I was naive, but it was a very naive. It's like with the American Werewolf thing, we was able to do much quicker because it was just a.
Well, it was made in the UK for a start.
Exactly, so it's easier for me. Whereas it just the scope of it grew.
Well, I was going to ask you about it because the scope of it is massive. There's always that difficulty in trying to balance or find a balance between a sort of completist project and something that tells a compelling story. And of course, you go into these projects and you go, okay, right, we've got this person and this person. Oh, now we're going to have to speak to this person. And every time you interview somebody, they mention somebody else and it leads to another person. Did you feel at any time that this project's getting too big?
I don't think we found that it was going too big. I think what we found was we didn't think we would get access to the people that we did.
Right.
Harold Ramis's and Sigourney Weaver's. We were obviously hopeful, but I think that changed the landscape for us with regards to but like exactly as you say, Jamie, it's almost like breadcrumbs. You would interview somebody and they would say, "Oh, have you spoken to so and so?" And we're like, "Oh, we've been trying to get them." And then they'd say, and that we'd go, "Right, okay." So, and because they were recommending us, it was word of mouth, really.
And goodwill in many ways, I guess.
100%.
Because they see that your fans see your enthusiasm and the love for the film. And, I had a similar situation last year where I'm trying to make a documentary, and I had this particular person that I contacted, and he said, "Oh, could you book a room at a suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel?" And I was like, "No, like I've literally flown over here on my own money. we've got 2 days left. We'd love to speak to you. And he's like, okay, come to my house in Hollywood and we'll do it in the garden, you know. And once I had a sort of nudge from the person that the documentary is about as well, he's like, oh, okay, if they've said it's fine, you know, then come on over. Because also that you get to that situation, I'm sure that you did as well, where, okay, you've got Harold Ramis, you've got Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney has to be in it, you know, Ivan Reitman has to be in it, because without it, they would be missing out in many ways.
Absolutely. It's that not being invited to the party, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a few other, obviously, there's like, you know, Bill Murray, Rick Moranis are the two main ones that are missing out. But mainly for that reason, you think, you know, once they know, but, you know, Bill Murray does sing to his own tune, which is fair enough. And he does.
And Rick kind of left the business, didn't he? And yeah.
No, exactly. So I don't, you know, it was just, I think there was only one time we just couldn't do it, purely because I think we'd finished the film pretty much. And then we got contact with someone else. It's like, we couldn't do that now. It's like, we would have loved to. And I think the only way that I trimmed it down was that the original doc was going to be like the whole franchise, the games, and because we remember interviewing them for about the computer game, which had just come out at the time, and the toys and this and that, and like it was going to be a whole shebang. And then as the interviews kind of grew from people within the film and their stories and all compelling stuff like that, and it was that I don't want to cut it down, and that was the decision really to make two docs about, one about Ghostbusters 2 and one about Ghostbusters, because it's like I don't want to sacrifice time on film just to kind of, you know, we've got to squeeze in 30 minutes for Ghostbusters 2, which I didn't want to limit what we talk about Ghostbusters because it was all so compelling, and I didn't want to limit and treat Ghostbusters 2 as like, yeah, just that other one. Do you remember the second one? Yeah. I didn't want that. I wanted to give them both the amount of time, and as it grew, it was like, it's going to be 4 or 5 hours long, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but it's like, I also want to, it's that thing, like making it a bit more palatable for an audience that aren't hardcore fans. Like trying to get that balance was always kind of tricky, which is the best thing about the book, because like all the really granular stuff that I removed from the doc just to bring the time down and make it easier, that I could put into the book so everyone gets that kind of information.
Yeah, it's great to be able to use those sort of unused, untapped resources that you couldn't get in the film for duration issues, and now get it in the book. But I just wanted also, we'll get onto the book as well, but I want to talk about this was a more than 10-year journey, right, to get this project done. How did you sort of stay motivated? How did you you're fitting this in and around your regular jobs, I assume, as well. And we were talking just before we hit record that, you know, it does take fans like us to make these projects because nobody else is going to do them. The studios aren't necessarily interested. They want to move on to the new project and the next project. But did you find it difficult at times? Were there many hurdles along the way, unexpected ones?
Well, there's lots of hurdles.
Yeah, most of them came at the end.
Yeah,
when it came to distribution and all of that. That was a minefield, which was, I mean, that's the business. I try not to use the term business end because it has a different kind of meaning in other side. Although similar kind.
Yeah. We can draw parallels.
Exactly.
I guess going back to what you said there, Anthony, some of that naivety probably helped in a way because you're sort of just ploughing forward and trying to get all these interviews. And it's only when you sort of hit the stumbling blocks of the sort of business end of things that it becomes difficult.
Yeah. And potentially off-putting, I think. We was asked the other day, if we was to go back and see our younger selves and what would we say and all the rest of it. And it's always, and I'm always very kind of like, I always remember Michael J. Fox and a decent Star Trek episode where it's like, well, if you go back, you're playing around with like the tapestry, I think it was in Star Trek, where you can unravel something and then you end up at the point where you are now, where we are enjoying. But there is that element. And I have seen other people also just kind of like when they realize that most of the time it's fun and games, to be fair, but you need the financial resources, like if you're the same as yourself, if you're going over to the States and doing stuff like that, the way we justify it is like, well, if we were going on holiday, we would have spent much more if we'd gone to Disneyland or something. Yeah. Well, and much less time and probably a lot less fun, to be fair. Whereas you're doing something you love, even though it's still work, you've got the stresses of like cameras and this, that, and the other, and lugging this, and what if it gets lost? Because that's happened before. So there's a lot of things that kind of come with it, but are also part of the weirdly, in a sadistic way, it's kind of part of the fun.
Yeah.
You feel as though if it was all just fun and games, everybody would do it. And there is something about the struggle that
makes you
right. Is that right? Like
right, rubber stamps.
Yeah. I feel like, we are documentary filmmakers, bunch of fanboy types that are going out having a bit of fun, and we've done this, it's great. It's like, no, we really had to go through the mill, especially at the end. I mean, everything leading up to it with the
making of it, with the interviews and things like that. But sort of going back to Jamie's point as well, is that I don't think we ever felt that we were never going to pursue this. I mean, once we committed to it, mainly I feel, because all of these people, Harold, Sigourney, Richard Edlund, John Bruno, Dan Aykroyd, all these people that had given us their time, they had up their time. You can't let them down, and that was for us, was really important, that if they were good enough to give us their time, then we at least owe it to them to finish this film, hook or by crook. It is my belief that these guys know how hard it is to get anything made, and I'd like to feel that we've earned people's respect, because no matter the odds, we did always continue, and we never did give up.
And we had support. It was, we're not a huge team of people, but it was like Anthony and Derek.
Anthony's Osborne.
The two mainstay. AZ, as we call them. Anthony did all of our kind of posters and stuff, and Derek did all the motion graphics. And it's just another layer of, like, if they're doing that, because I couldn't do it. I can do it now. I know how to do a lot of that stuff now. In terms of the motion graphics, I hadn't a clue then. I did a few. There were I think 2 or 3 in the doc that were all me. And YouTube, there was the great education. But it's I know we wanted to take it up that level, and just having them there as a bit of a sounding board and just being that kind of support. You're a team, so we might be all spread across the world, but we're all trying to get to an end point of something that the people enjoyed. So it certainly, when we did the Kickstarter, there was the financial issue, because it was like we just run out of money completely. And we had no other way of tapping into any other resources. So that's why we did the Kickstarter.
That was 8 years.
It was 8 years. That was there's a lot of people sort of saying it was a Kickstarter project. But no, it wasn't a Kickstarter project. It was a project that was helped by Kickstarter in the end. But there were 8 years of getting money, working, going abroad for like a couple of weeks or a couple of months sometimes, to get all those traveling literally from one side of the country to the other, which was all good fun, driving and doing the whole sort of like east to west coast or whatever. But it's like, you are just, there is an element that personally, for me, you get quite caught up in that kind of like, this is amazing, but like, we're doing it.
Yeah, because nobody's going to come knocking at your door and say, excuse me, would you do this for me? You were saying earlier, and there's so many lessons to be learned along the way, aren't they? Like, each time you do an interview, you're like, oh, maybe next time we'll do it this way, or we'll put the light here or the mic there or whatever it is. And that's part of the fun, though, isn't it? That learning process. I hate the word journey in a way, because it's used so much, but going on that journey from starting with nothing and ending up with all of this material and then trying to craft it into something, there's nothing more fun than that for me. I mean, I can see on your faces now that it's the same for you.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, when people, like yourself are talking to us saying, you've interviewed X, Y, and Z, and what was that like? And you're just like, oh my God, yeah, we did. And it's weird to look back now in retrospect and think that we did that. And we did that with we were 2 people that grew up in the southwest of England, and we've got no connections to Hollywood. We just had a dream, and we had an integrity to our work and to our craft. And when you've got people like John Bruno, who's got the Oscar for Titanic and works with James Cameron on like everything, around and saying to you, you've transported me back to when I worked at Boss Film, and reading your book, thank you for committing our story to history. And these icons are coming and thanking you, and you're like, and they think that we're worthy. I mean, what greater reward is that? And it is, at the end of the day, worth all of that, the ups and downs.
Well, Mark Siegel was tearing out.
Yeah, he
was like an almost finished version. He was in the UK, and this is when we was living in London. So I said, "Could you want to see it?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." So we came round, and he's just like, "Yeah, just taking me right back." And I'm like, all the memories are coming back to like that. And he has got one of those minds where he just remembers everything, but he just sort of like all the emotions kind of like of it all. And that's very rewarding. One thing I found with doing all these kind of docs is when you reconnect people as well. It's like there's I haven't heard from him for years, and then they get back in touch, and then you're just thinking, oh, that's nice. We've been able to do that kind of reconnection thing.
There are people that haven't met each other, like Mark Brian Wilson, who was the puppeteer, the actor inside Slimer, and Robin Shelby, who was Slimer in Ghostbusters 2. They had never met, and we were able to connect those two.
That's great.
That was a treasured memory.
Yeah, and they're friends now.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I recently wrote an article on Ghostbusters 2 about Slimer, and I got Robin and Mark chatting again as well, which is nice. And it's lovely making those connections, and also giving those people an opportunity to sort of look back at their legacy, because those sorts of people that work in the industry are very sort of like shark-like in their drive. They want to go to the next project and the next project, like we said before. But it's nice, I think, for them to take a pause and just kind of go, oh yeah, what I did have an impact on people, and did change the culture as well, because they don't really get that opportunity, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of these guys as well, particularly in visual effects, they are kind of in a black room.
The black cloth, I think there is the slang completely. But I remember Eldo. We went to a Ghostbusters convention in Scotland. And Eldo Ray, the excitable redheaded extra, and he was telling a story about meeting some kid. It was either because he's now a
makeup artist.
Right.
Not visual effects, but
proper proper makeup, but
physical makeup,
a lip heap and a bit of glosses, that kind of thing. I'm sure he did. But I remember him saying, getting really, because there was some kid, and there was some kind of connection through Ghostbusters, and how this kid was just like ecstatic, and he goes, I just did not realize. It's one thing you do a little thing, and there's these little fan groups, but when you see how the impact that film has, and that is the thing. I mean, it's film does. It's such an important medium, and this is a kind of a cause I'm always kind of championing, and not just like indie films obviously done very well in the Oscars this year, but cinema itself as a medium and its importance in culture. And people who don't get it, that's fine. I won't go on about it. Guys fed up of hearing it. But I was involved in a project recently about trying to get an old indie cinema up and working, and the majority of the people that was on the board that I was with just didn't go to the cinema. They didn't really watch films. It's like, how am I supposed to convince people? Like, I'm going up to London to watch Batman on 35mm, and most of the people I'm talking to really couldn't care less, and they probably don't even know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Batman. So it's a hard sell, but those that get it, and even if somebody we were talking with the other day, when people said, oh, I don't like films, it's like, it's not really true, because that means you say you don't watch films ever. Probably what you're talking about is a certain genres that you don't like, but you will sit and watch them, even if it's an old Western. So, films are important. And what we wanted to try and do was just capture a window of time, like during the 1980s, this is how they did it. And the arguments can be whether it was a better way of doing things or not in comparison to how they do things these days.
Yeah.
It's still really, really important. And because it's pretty much, everyone always looks at Star Wars as that, which is fair enough. They kind of almost reinvent cinema in some ways, but it's still like, it's certainly with Ghostbusters and other films like Terminator and Back to the Future, that era, they're really important films to kind of and capture. And while those people are still around that you can talk to, and because what you can learn, from a photochemical era, still works its way into the disciplines that you can learn from doing things like that. It's concerning the way things have kind of gone, but that's it's a whole other.
Well, for a start, you should be listening to my podcast, Anthony, because that's exactly what my podcast is about. I've spoken to lots of visual effects people, sound designers, all sorts, and Yeah, I want to talk about some of the interviews that you did for the documentary as well, because you said the sort of start point was Dan Aykroyd. Was that the first interview you did, or had you done other interviews leading up to that?
No, he took us 4 years from agreeing to be interviewed to actually sitting down, because he travels the world.
Yeah, he's a busy man.
Egg vodka. So, we'd find that he'd be on the East Coast when we were on the West Coast, and when we were on the West Coast, he was on the East Coast, and we could never align with his busy schedule. But the first person was Ernie Hudson, wasn't it?
Really?
To say yes. And he was over at a convention. It wasn't Coventry, was it? It was Coventry.
No, it should say Coventry.
Yeah. And he'd already said yes, and we thought, well, let's try and get him. And we queued up. And poor man.
We've been in touch. We communicated.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any kind of anything firm, and we're just like, well, if he's here, and then it was just like, well, let's just because
I'd take your chances,
yeah. So I was like, well, let's go, and
so we winged it, and we took him. We just introduced ourselves, and then, long story short, he kindly said yes, and we interviewed him at the end of the convention.
Yeah,
which in retrospect, I mean, you've probably been to conventions yourself. You don't realise just how tiring those trips are without, being jet lagged. And then to actually offer, to do the interview after a whole day of meeting and greeting and signing. I mean, really, Ernie is a legend.
Yeah.
And very grateful that, he wrote the foreword for the book, and, I'm a very firm friend. And a great sort of ally for us, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's really championed us. So it was Ernie that was the first, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then we went to New York, and it was John Rothman, David Margulies, Timothy Carhart. I think that was that trip, and then we came back.
Was there a particular kind of pinch me moment with a particular interview? I mean, obviously amazing to get all of those people, but was there one where you've really got the tingles,
It's got to be Harold, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was... They're
all special in their own way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the story attached to the whole, which obviously is in the book, but
it's like Harold, and I mean, all of them. I mean, it's just like because they.
But I think
it's very. I mean, Harold was lovely. I know with like for me when I get that moment, which is a bit odd. This is going back when we shot on tape.
Yeah.
That camera just there was writing the names down on the tape, like you put the camera kind of info date.
Yeah.
It's nothing about writing it, and all of a sudden there it is. It's like it's Harold, it's Ernie, it's Terry, and you're like, it just all of us. That's all of a sudden it's sunk in because you've been rushing around.
But the thing with Harold, we had we rocked up at his door, and we knocked on the door, and he opened the door and went, "Hey, it's the Ghostbusters." And we were like, just sort of completely taken aback. And where we were really nervous, he just completely at that instant put at ease. And we went in there. And he was putting off appointments and apologising to us for talking too much. Can you imagine? And we were like lapping it all up, and we spent the whole afternoon with him, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think we are, I don't think I'm wrong in saying that we were the last people that he spoke to at length about his time working on Ghostbusters, which, again, to be the custodian of that story is an honour. And but I think what I learned a lot from him is because you think about the films that he's made, analyse this, analyse that. Groundhog Day, just a couple off the top of my head, obviously Ghostbusters. When you meet somebody who's so grounded and down to earth, his offices were just above a shop, in a street, very in a little suburb in Chicago, very unassuming, candid, honest, but just with great warmth. And I don't know, I just felt I learned a lot from him about what it is to have that star quality, that, no matter your success, just by being a grounded human being, I don't know, I learned a lot from him.
So I remember even when we went in, and was just talking about stuff, and he took us to the computer and he goes, well, this is where the idea of Egon Sheila and Leon
Pryor. Yeah.
And shout out, here's this, and this is kind of, I was just like, to get that kind of like, oh well, this is where it all kind of like started for us, up ideas and I remember having conversations with him that I can't be quite repeated because it was all anyway. I remember, I will leave it at that, but it was just
that story too.
No, there was no, but anyway, but no, but there was just. It was just one of it was exactly what Claire says, that occasion of someone who's had, and he says to us within the interview, it's in the second film, he knows they've had successes and failures, and so he knows how both of them feel, and successes don't solve all your personal problems, and failure at the end of the world either. And it's like, what an amazing philosophy. It's like that's exactly. So everyone's like, got to be this and got to be that, and we live in an area where people more really want to see you fail more than want to see you succeed. I think is say in a lot of ways for people, but it's just you meet people like that, and it's like but it doesn't matter because as long as you're happy with what you've done, you've worked hard and to try and create the things you want to set out and create, then you want people to sit there and enjoy it. But there's such is life really. That's kind of the way it is, and all you can do is do your best. So but there were a lot of. I remember
God, they were
amazing. Talking with them, but you go in there and there's, they've got a terror dog kind of maquette in a cupboard, and there's just the old which we borrowed to shoot for the film. The internal workings of the
armature. The armature.
I'm sure it's like a lightsaber cabinet. And it's just like, oh my god,
because Richard and Terry had come out of Industrial Light and Magic, so oh god, I mean, Terry had some amazing stories about him with the
Return of the Jedi,
Return of the Jedi with the Emperor's.
The lightning bolt.
The lightning, the Force lightning. Yeah.
And he was just saying about how they were saying, no, you need to do more. And he goes, this was the point. Nobody knew that Vader was going to be dying or anything. And he goes, yeah, but if I do more lightning, this is going to kill him. And he said, and then there was just this stillness. Like, okay, I'll just do more lightning.
he thought he was going to lose his job because he kind of guessed what was going to happen. Yeah. So they've got all of these sort of stories, and they were just so warm, but just learning their craft as well was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, it is that. I think it's learning.
Yeah, you get an education along the way, don't you? And when you meet people that are that humble as well, like Harold was, it sort of galvanizes in your mind, doesn't it? The project that you're doing is worth doing because it gives you a newfound confidence, doesn't it, for the next guest? Because once you sort of breach that barrier and you're in, things start to happen, don't they? Like I said, with my podcast, one interview usually leads to another and another. Obviously you had maybe hundreds of hours of footage, right? At some point with interviews, B-roll and all of that. Did you find it difficult to finally kind of go, okay, we're locked, we need to release this? Like, how did that come about? When was that moment?
That's definitely a you question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it was, I think it was when we got it to the 2-hour mark. It was always in my head about keeping it to 8, and then I was trying to get it to 90 minutes. Then you are, which there is a 100-minute version of the doc which we used for screenings and things, which is fine actually. I was quite happy with it, but you're losing a lot in that 100 minutes. And I think one of the actually maybe the original finished version was about 3 hours. And I was just very concerned. It's 3 hours, and we really got to bring that down. But it for me, it's always just that kind of like that feeling that you get. It's like, okay, that now it doesn't feel like that bit's overstaying its welcome. I originally dumped all the footage together, and okay, that's everybody talking about that bit and that bit and that bit. It was 5 hours, I think it was. That quickly came down to 4 once you kind of wheedle out the repetition a little bit. And then got it down to 3, and then it kind of came down to 2. And it came down to 2 by taking out certain sequences of like the second montage sequence. Because we haven't got nobody new. And it was always in our heads, like, it doesn't matter who we interview, everybody that we interview appears in the doc. It's not going to be one of those, well, we'll interview you, but, you may like make the final cut. And that wasn't going to happen. And then weirdly, people would say, "Oh, it'd be great even if you could just use a little bit of it." It's like, well, yeah, of course. Why would we have come in? And then say, "Oh, we've done a few of these, but rarely make the actual final edit." It's like, oh, how weird. I know, because everything you've just said to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one fellow we interviewed for Too Hard to Handle, like finally, because reached out to him years ago. And he was just like, I really don't think I've got anything interesting to say, to be honest. Right. They've been all been covered. It's like, I can just whatever, because I'm not fond of some of these things, so I get it. Don't worry about it at all. It's fine. And then as time's passed and we were over there the last time, we were just like, no, let's talk about it. Honey, it was just like beginning to end entertainment and stories and this. It's like, I believe you said you've got loads to say. It's fascinating. So, but there was that kind of, I think when we sit there and we like show it to friends and I'd show people like the long version and people, they must have been thinking, what on earth is this? Because it's just, no, it's there's nothing over the top of it. There's no motion graphics. There's no nothing. And I was just like, yeah, but it's kind of the first pass that's there. But, yeah, it was. Once we got that 2 hour, and it's really that sitting down. We sit there and watch it, and a couple of and you thinking, I think it's there because it's got a nice flow to it. It doesn't feel overstayed its welcome. It doesn't feel like it's too short. You know, there's bits I wish were there, but I know every time they've been there, you just start to get that kind of like, it's been too long now. So I think originally Slimer was like, I think it's 10 minutes. I think I tried to allocate 10 minutes to like Stay Puft and Terror Dogs and Slimer. And if I can get it within that kind of ballpark, it just kind of helps me when I'm approaching anything that there's like, I'm not going to be, it's got to be this and that's it. But it's a nice kind of, that when you're watching things, it's a nice kind of window of time. And so I was able to get like the original 45 minutes of Slimer right the way down to about 10 minutes. Right. And it's amazing how once you get motion graphics in, it's amazing what you can do. But there is always. Well, we're doing it right now with the second one. It's like we literally just finished the first version of it. Now we take it to legals, and hopefully it'll fly through. But otherwise, we might have to change it. Because the same with Cleanin Up the Town, it had to change a few times before we could. It's finally done because we were happy with it, and then it goes off to a fair use lawyer. Yeah, and fair use lawyer had like 130 odd things. It was like, no, this has got to be changed, and this needs to be done. This needs to be re-edited, and that took a couple of months to change it. So there's kind of done and there's done, I suppose.
Yeah, because all that fair use stuff, it has to be very precise, doesn't it? It's like a frame here and a frame there, and you have to justify the use of things. I think people tend to think that fair use is just not approaching the studio and just putting short snippets in, but it still has to go through legal, doesn't it? And it still can be administratively difficult and can have an impact on your edit and your storytelling. So it's a two-way street, isn't it? You have to.
I mean, I talk about it in the book, and again, because I'm hoping that people might learn, the ins and outs. Because the thing is, every time something goes to a lawyer, it's costing you money. Yeah. So the more that you know before it gets to your lawyer, and the more that you've covered and justified why, I don't know if you know much about sort of fair use, or your listeners do, but ultimately it has to be in the public domain. So that's in a book, in the cinema, on the internet, obviously VHS. On VHS. So anything where it's been out there, you can use, but it also has to illustrate the point that your subject is talking about. So it has to be, yeah, exactly. It can't be a filler, and it can't drive the narrative. It has to illustrate the point in which your subject and what they're talking about, the kind of payoff. That's it in its kind of basic terms of what you need to do with fair use. So, and you have to be able to justify. I mean, and it goes down to the kind of detail you have to go into. I remember the Sigourney Weaver, where she talks about it. You'll sit, in the doc where she talks about comedy. Yeah. We put a picture of Sigourney Weaver, and I don't know what year that was that the original picture was taken.
But it was a bit further on.
It might have further. Yeah, it might have been in kind of And they're like, no, if she's talking about hadn't performed comedy before or only marginally on screen, you need to use an image of that time. So we were lucky to get an image of Chevy Chase that she did a film with, and we were able to use that because that was 1983 or 82. So it was in the same time.
So be relevant, yeah.
It has to be relevant. It has to be set to the same time frame as they're talking about. So you can't use it arbitrarily. You have to have a reason and be able to justify why you are using that image.
So music as well.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more stricter because of the nature of it, but it's the same thing. You can use the music as long as it's illustrating whatever point. And that's what we haven't got Ghostbusters using in the film, because we did try and get the rights to use it and we weren't allowed to. And once you're denied that right, that's it.
That's it. End of story. Yeah.
So it was just like, so we won't do that again.
Yeah, I was talking about those pinch me moments earlier, but I'm sure the premiere at the BFI IMAX was a big one of those. Tell me about that particular day.
Oh, I'd say that was the biggest night of my life. So I don't think I'm understating that. I think when we worked on, we did the red carpet. We got a company called Premier Scene, so we've interviewed everybody. And you would go to the IMAX, and this is where Steven Spielberg would have his premieres, where Tom Cruise would have his premieres. They don't do premieres at the IMAX for documentaries. I believe in the kind of 10, 15 years we did it.
Yeah.
There was, I think, one documentary. Right. So for us to get our European premiere there, that was a dream come true. And to have all our friends that we would be our chums on the red carpet come and interview us, it was quite a surreal moment. But when you're stood on the stage, and again where Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise have done their introductions, and you're there, and I'm certainly not trying to compare what we've done to the kind of work they do. I certainly wouldn't even attempt that, but just to be stood on that stage it really was a dream come true. But again, like Anthony said earlier on, when you've worked so hard, and there wasn't even the milestones the hurdles that were still to face us. We didn't know it at the time, but when you're stood there knowing that you've worked really hard to get there, you feel like you look like you've earned it, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is it. So the pain you go through, all those trials and the good times, it is just that kind of earn it. You've earned the right, because we have put ourselves out there and put everything on the line to create this thing. And I remember for me it was weird. It took a while for it to be sink in. I was just like, this is weird. It was like being on a carpet, being on the other side. I remember when I can't remember what the next one was we did after that as Premier Scene.
Yeah.
And it did feel like
it was Picard.
It was Picard. I just feels like we've turned a corner. We are now filmmakers ourselves, and then to go back and hear the gripes of the red carpet and all the rest of it, it's like, but we've done. I don't know if this is really going to be for us anymore. So we only did a few more, I think.
Yeah. Pandemic. Yeah, the last Bullet Train.
Which
so kind of ended at a high.
Yeah, which is
for me anyway.
Yeah. But it was. Even now, when I think about it, to be quite honest, it's just. And people it's like the odd people that know. Some people just say, "Oh, you've got to say the BFI IMAX in London." I'm like, so you don't even know what an IMAX is. Oh, I'm talking to you about it. So there's those people, and there's one fellow who's like, "How'd you book somewhere like that?" It's like, well, we
you asked.
We just like we had a bit of a relationship with the BFI, but they turned out to be really supportive. And it's just like, well, these are the dates that. You can. It's like, it was great. They were originally going to show Ghostbusters. It was going to be part of the thing, and then they weren't. So, just became, which I was quite happy about, because it was just I don't want to detract from what we're doing. So, still, and we've got some IMAX posters up in the loft, which I still need to put into a display to illuminate, and it's going to look awesome.
The smell of an IMAX poster is really.
Specific company. It was really strong,
but in a nice way, I suppose.
Getting it on the bus, sort of like it was all very grand. And you can't get. You guys like, oh yeah, we've got the chauffeur to go and get it. It's sort of like was it the number 14 bus the Finsbury car? It's going wrong.
Amazing.
Very grounding.
Yeah, friends come and we But we would just come the end of the evening, we were shattered, and it's like, yeah, where are we going to go now? It's like bed. And he was saying, well, we have a party pooper. Should we go now? We doing it? Should we do that? Or we should be going to bed because I'm tired. So it's been a really long day. Great.
But it was amazing to share it with you know, with
really
all the people that wanted to be there, our friends that had supported us.
Yeah.
You know, along the way, they were all there as well. And, you know, you can't beat sitting in a cinema and sharing that experience. And you know what, what I always remember when all the titles had finished, the end titles and the credits had run, people just sat there and it was silence. There was just like a few seconds of like silence, and then all of a sudden there was this rapturous applause, and it was, you're like, oh my God,
Well,
that's just phenomenal.
Because when
it was very humbling.
It really, when we screened it in Canada first, because it was like the Canadian distributor kind of just jumped the gun, and they were filming Afterlife.
Yeah.
Where was it?
Kind of Calgary, yeah.
So that's what they wanted to do. It's for this film festival. Was like great, but we found out through social media. We weren't told,
Right.
so we had to contact them and say, oh yeah, it'd be great to have you here. We had to fly over, and they was able to put us up in a room for a couple of nights, which was nice.
It was a suite, actually.
It was just,
Okay, you.
I know.
Yeah, it was all very like, and it was you have to have a lot of like moisturizers. It turns out because it's so cold. It's and you're scratching. It's like, has this place got nits or something?
I get that as Vegas in the night. Like when I go to Vegas every year, everyone just dries out completely. Yeah.
Got like big tubs of like.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the itches, amazing. Oh, yeah. It's like if they've got the air conditioning wrong or something, but you sit there and the place was packed. It was a great event, and it was easy for some people to get, like Derek, who did our motion graphics and stuff. So, but you are sat there waiting to spot something that's gone wrong. So it was a very, but there's the moments where people are laughing and maybe
in the right places.
Yeah. Sometimes you're expecting the laugh and it doesn't quite happen. It's like,
Yeah.
And the other bits of the laugh, but mainly was Alice Drummond.
Yeah.
And her telling her stories, and everyone's laughing about, like, you know, trying to scare me and all that kind of stuff. And it was just, they always make us look like that. And it's just such a buzz. Where people are reacting, and they all really reacted very well to it. So it was that was a great trip. That was actually, I always wanted to go to Canada anyway. So
great. I mean, ticks multiple boxes. That's a good thing. So what were the hurdles after the premieres for you? Was there then sort of deals to do with physical distribution and digital distribution after that?
Yeah. How long have you got? Ultimately, we were picked up by the biggest sales agent in the country. And they offered us a large advance and to sell. This is the same sales agent that represented Line of Duty. So, I mean, a big league for the UK.
They did the Michael Jackson.
And they did the Michael Jackson. Yeah. And so, I don't know, cut a very long story short, they went bankrupt, leaving us, not paying us, and meaning that we then owed other people money because they'd done work for us on the back of us getting this advance that never happened. And so that was incredibly stressful, and again, cutting an incredibly long story short, resulted in us having to buy the rights to our film back.
No way.
So it was really very unpleasant. It was heartbreaking. And and all, if there's any lesson to be learned there to the people that we did owe money to, was just to continue to communicate with them and just never disappear and keep them in the loop. I would call them every week, and I'm quite a proud person, but to say that was beyond humiliating is
thankfully they were decent people.
They were, they were, and they did get paid.
Yeah, they did, and they know the industry is what it is.
Yeah,
it was because that is the hardest thing. You just want to be, you do these deals, and
you just want people to see your film.
Yeah, exactly. There's an element of all of it. It's like, and it's actually like the book. It's like, do you go via a distributor, or do you go via, self-publication and all the rest of it? And even kicked around the idea for the second doc, actually, that I would do it that way, because you're relying on other people, and you just realize, like, again, that business side of it, there's some decent people out there, and there's some sharks. And as it turns out, like they were not decent.
Swimming with
shots, and it would all look good. I mean, we was very impressed. You know, their offices were on Shaftesbury Avenue, and to be fair, like the catalogue of films that they were representing, it didn't matter what page you turned to, you could go to that one, and they knew all of them. And at times we met with others, and they just hadn't seen it. They just knew the product and what they could do with it, whereas these didn't. So it all looks like very promising, but it's just, I mean, we would be here all day kind of going on about it, and that's not just the only thing. There was others, but that was the biggest and the worst one.
Yeah,
and it is the worst thing. Just when you say, "Yeah, don't worry about it, you're going to get paid." Yeah, they're fine, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're not going to get paid now.
Ouch.
It's just like, right, how are we going to do that? And the only good thing was at least we had a product that we still needed to sell, even though we didn't technically have it anymore. Just a waiting game to find out who bought the catalogue from Q. And, you know, was Q going to redo a resurgence and have the dog with them? It was a long waiting game, so it took a long time. And I think it was mainly kind of because of the pandemic, was we could do something about that a bit more immediately. There was like loans that appeared, because of the pandemic, so we were able to apply for one of those and then pay people because it still took, I can't remember how long it took. It took a long time to finally find out who had the film, part of the deal, to buy the film back, and then make a new deal to finally get it distributed. I mean, the UK stuff was all fine because the UK distribution is fantastic, and lines of communication was always open. It was always ideal. And then the deal we did within the States didn't do personally. I wasn't happy with the release that they did. It was very kind of vanilla. They didn't communicate with us, so we couldn't go, well, look, here's all the stuff that
15 years
that looks great, and they just did their own thing, which I like, and it just made it look cheap. It looked like a Monday Market knockoff. You know, Monday Market where you used to get like dodgy, which was a little part of me that was just like, I remember those days. That was not our own version of it. But then they went bankrupt.
Oh God!
So we're in that, which is such a big deal now because we've got to buy the film back just for US distribution. And we'll think of something to do with it. But it was
a very difficult.
We're
here. We're still sitting here.
Yeah, and still smiling about it. I mean, no, that sounds really, really difficult. I'm sorry you had to go through that, because when you're like I am, I'm green to this whole idea. I want to make this film, right? And I'm making it. But you hear from a producer who's going to do this for you and a producer who can do that for you. And you kind of take it on good faith, don't you, that it's going to all work out. And, you know, I've not got to the point at the moment where I've signed any contracts, but I'm just so into it that I'm just scared to do anything. So I'm just going to keep making it until it's done. And then I'm going to go down that route because, you know, once you get into advances and all that kind of stuff, it just starts to scare me because I have to do this in my spare time. You know, I still have to earn a living. And as I'm sure you did. But well done for getting it out there and getting it to fans, because you are the fans that want to see this kind of thing. And you made it. You had to be the people that made that. And applause to you.
Thank you. I want to ask you about your documentary, but I don't know whether you're at liberty.
Yeah, I mean, I've waffled on about it enough probably, but I'm making a documentary about Joe Alves, the production designer who worked on Jaws, built the Shark. He worked with Spielberg on Close Encounters, but it turns out, I interviewed him for my podcast. It turns out he also worked for Disney on Sleeping Beauty. He worked on Forbidden Planet. He worked for Rod Serling on Night Gallery, and you know, he was second unit director on Jaws 2 and directed Jaws 3D, and worked for John Carpenter on Escape from New York. Went to his house, and we were hoping that we'd just make a little half an hour thing like I've done before with other producers and puppeteers and people, and we were hoping that he had some stuff. And my God, did he have some stuff. He's got this pretty much unseen archive of all of his drawings, blueprints, sketches. Like, I opened a filing cabinet one day and I was like, what's this, Joe? And he said, oh, that's the bit of paper that I first drew how the shark might work for Jaws. And I'm like, you know, putting it back in the filing cabinet, terrified that I'm going to tear it. But we've been out there a couple of times now in 22 and 23. And we're going out this year to Martha's Vineyard because it's the 50th anniversary. And Joe's going down, and we have to get that. I mean, I've got no money at the moment, but I'm going to have to make this happen, because to see Joe crossing that ferry, probably for the last time in his life, you know, having done it in 1973 for the first time, it's going to be great to see, you know, his legacy sort of remembered and spoken about by him. So yeah, we've got some great stuff. We've got some good interviews of his collaborators, and it's fun. It's such fun. Like me and my friend Paddy, who's co-directing it with me, sometimes we'll finish an interview, we'll drive down the road and we'll just pull up and just get out and hug and just go, that was brilliant. You know, like, how did we pull that off? And people kind of look at you, don't they? Like, oh, you're crazy. And also they don't have an understanding of what it really takes to make a project like this as a fan, because there's a lot you have to sacrifice. You're going out on a limb. You're sort of putting your reputation on the line as well. So when you mentioned about, you know, being at the BFI and having all your friends there, I'm sort of thinking ahead myself to maybe we're not going to make it that far, but just being able to sort of say, see, we did it, you know, and if you try, you can do these things. Thank you.
Well, that's right. And good luck with that.
Thank you.
We had Michael Chapman, didn't we?
Yeah. So Clam Shout is right next to, there's the best of, we're told by Michael Chapman, best in the world. So it's right by where Quint's shack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not because it was there to do, that was
it. It's still not there, yeah, because they had to return it back to its original state, which was nothing there. Yeah.
It's still the same. Right next there, this great little restaurant, lobster roll, clam chowder. It's the best, and it really was. It was bloody
lovely.
So big round, like Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, plays a vital part in a lot of films, as it turns out. But it's just he's no longer with us, because he would have. I think because he did, he was like, maybe he was saying to he didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing when he was working on Jaws. So it's exactly what he said to us. It's like, really, and it's like, and then you look, so why didn't I realize this before we came in? Like he was like second camera on Jaws and stuff. So we've got it in the second doc, like this great picture. It's like him and I think it's the DOP and Spielberg, like around the camera and stuff. And I guess Jaws is Jaws.
Yeah, I'll send you my trailer when we're done. It's not out yet because we're just sort of trying to send it around to see if we can get funding initially. That was why we did it, but we also did it to remind ourselves we've actually got a cool project here. You know, because sometimes you need that, don't you? You need that sort of. You need to sort of put some scaffolding up and kind of go, yeah, we are reaching a certain height with these things. Back to you guys. I want to just obviously talk about the book as well, because when did that idea first come? Was it during the production of the film, or was it afterwards when you thought we've got all this material and we could do something here?
I remember at one point wanting to write a book. Then that kind of, I started something and then, you know, just forgot about it. We were in America and you were up editing or something. And I remember writing stuff when I was at the hotel, and then just shelving that. Yeah. And then And then Richard Leto, who edited the book, approached me about 3 or 4 years ago now. Actually, it might be about 4 years ago. Thinking about it, and said, "Have you thought of using all those unused interviews and making it into a book?" And I was like, I'd absolutely love to do that. and so off I went and transcribed everything by hand because I wanted to reconnect to those interviews, because I conduct the interviews, Anthony had filmed them. Yeah. And then so once I transcribed them all, I wanted to sort of follow the narrative of what we did. I wanted it to be an extension of Cleanin Up the Town, you know, the documentary. So the stuff that Anthony had to edit out, just be a kind of the larger version of that, the companion to it. So it's told in exactly the same way. It's edited, curated in the same way as Cleanin Up the Town is. So each scene that we travel through, everybody that collaborated or spoke about that particular scene is there, and it's all curated in that way. And then woven through each of the chapters is our story of how we made a documentary, and hopefully people can learn, because we've always wanted to kind of educate people. But we're always asked, you know, like the questions that you're asking now. So by putting them in the book, I hopefully answer some of those questions. And if anybody wants to go off and make a documentary of their own, they can read and learn by some of the things that we did right and some of the things that we did wrong, the kind of equipment that we were using, and again, the legals. And so it's become, you know, it took me 3 years to write, and then it was also an opportunity to go, well, what about other people that we couldn't get the first time round? So I've got like Reginald Val Johnson, the guard, and the police sergeant Joe Cirillo. He's in it, he's got some great, stories of working, because he was a New York police cop as well. So so it was very much it was I didn't think about writing a book necessarily, but then once Richard came to me and said, do you want to do it, it was like, yeah. And I it's the best thing I've ever done.
Excellent. Have you got a copy there with you that you could hold up just so people at home can see?
Makes sense.
Oh, look at that. That's cool. I'm going to have to buy this. Yeah. At the moment, I'm only reading stuff when I'm researching for my own stuff, but I also need something to divert me from that and to enjoy. Oh, that looks great.
Oh, I wish I still looked like that.
Look at the profile pic. Very cool. Nice.
So
excellent. So where is the book available? Can people get it in any bookstore or?
You can order it online, really, you can get it at Waterstones, Amazon, via our website as well, or the Great British Bookshop. At the moment, trying to conquer America, but Amazon is obviously the kind of the place where most people go to. And I'm working to sort of get it into the shops at present. So, but we did, I have distributed it independently. I think a little bit of touching on what Anthony had talked about, when the distribution process of the film has been so difficult, and it was a very difficult process to go to, because once somebody else has got your product, it's theirs to do what they want with. And I didn't want to dilute the story that I wanted to tell by somebody else coming along and then, telling me what to do with my story effectively. But the book is 577 pages, and the whole reason, I mean, some have said it should be edited down, and I kind of get where they're coming from, but the whole point of the book is that this is everything. What Anthony and I haven't wanted to do was leave the interviews that we couldn't fit into a documentary on the cutting room floor. And what I've done with this book is commit everything to history. So, we have corroborating stories. So, maybe one person says it, and then somebody else will also pick up and add a little bit more sort of context to it. So it's a big book because it's everything. Everything they said to us is there. And like I say, I just wanted to commit their story to history, and there is nothing now on the cutting room floor. And if you love Ghostbusters, or you're interested in filmmaking at all from that period, because we talk about cinematography, we talk in depth about visual effects. I mean, we're talking to matte painters. And so it is a really granular look into filmmaking of the period. And when John Bruno, again, who works with, I should say, James Cameron and that, when he turns around and says, thank you for committing our story to history, then you go, I feel like I've done a good job if I've got their approval, because otherwise their stories would disappear.
Yeah. Hollywood is not great at recording its own history. I know the Academy Museum is there now, and I mean, when I was there a few years ago, it's still quite sparse. Obviously, they have exhibitions that move around. They got a Jaws one coming up this autumn as well, which looks very cool. But yeah, unless, like I said before, unless we do these things, those stories are gone. And isn't it amazing to think that in the future, people are going to use your book as a reference source for their projects? I mean, I made a little book about Return of the Jedi a couple of years ago, put it out for the 40th anniversary. And the best feedback I've had, or the most rewarding feedback, is, oh, it was absolutely essential to me in this project I was doing, or this interview I was doing, because... And it was just a way for them to find that information in one place, the particular piece they needed. So I'm really looking forward to reading it. One last question. I think I know the answer to this from both of you. Has doing these projects deepened your love of Ghostbusters? Or are you kind of, when you're done with the second film, you're going to kind of shelve Ghostbusters and move on to something else?
It definitely deepened the love.
Yes.
I mean, we'll go on and we'll do something else. It hasn't put us off wanting to do any more. I'm still haven't quite figured out what that next thing's going to be. We have different ideas about different things at different times. It's like, yeah, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Well, somebody else has already done it. But no, it's like I said, like, well, if Ghostbusters is on, or Ghostbusters 2 for that matter, it's on Sky or whatever, it's like, so then we've just put it on because it's not just because it's an easy watch. It is a gem.
Yeah.
And you watch it with a new appreciation, I'm sure, like, with fresh eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely, because you were the one that, I went to see it and enjoyed it and, went off to do, other things. But it ingrained love of the, inspired you to enjoy the paranormal and explore that kind of thing. Dan Aykroyd had quite an effect on you.
Yeah, it did.
Whereas for me, that wasn't the case. But when you sit in a room with these guys, you'll know yourself. When you sit in a room with these guys and you understand the work and the craft, the camaraderie, and just how gifted like everybody was that worked on this film, and what just this kind of lightning in a bottle that they created. For me, it's ignited this whole new kind of love and passion and respect for the movie that I enjoyed, but now see it with completely different eyes. But there hasn't stripped away the mystique. It's just actually given me a greater appreciation for it.
Yeah, and so I think with most films, especially when they're, because it's not just Ghostbusters. Most of these have worked on. They've worked on other films, and they're telling you about those, and you start finding out all these granular bits of information. Sometimes they're a bit random, but they're really, we're even talking about ghosts, weirdly about ghosts and stuff. We're talking about ghosts the day. Like, yeah, when they were doing this, they had to do this and had to do that. It's like, really? And it's just, and again, back to that time in history of when it was much more, I'm saying it's not collaborative now, but it's different now. Now it's predominantly CG, so it's cubicles and people meet around the coffee machine or probably around a tennis table, something like that. It's not like everyone XYZ's working on that machine to create this effect, and it's changed, and not having that personal connection, like some of the humanity of it, you can kind of see. And there's a lot of films really now, especially the more mainstream stuff. So much of that is gone, and we were very fortunate when we were over last to meet Arian, who did the practical stuff within Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire. It showed us around his studio and things, and it's just like, it was just like walking into like 1983 and practical this, and they got the because he did Slimer and Library Ghost in Frozen Empire, and there they are recreated, looking identical. At least the Library Ghost, Slimer's actually smaller in size than what he was originally. But you just think this is. But it's like you hear the struggle that they have trying to get, practical stuff on screen, because the VFX, CG companies want to do all of it, and it's just like, you've got enough on, so let us do. But it's like, and so CG takes over, and
they don't even know how to work in the physical environment. That's the interesting thing as well.
All people of a certain age now have not worked at all within that practical environment. They only ever work within CG. And I'm not opposed to CG. I think it has its place in the world, like anything has, any new tech, even AI and things like that. But it's when it becomes so heavily reliant, and like with the new film, there's like shots at the library, and even though they look fine, but there's just something missing. It's because it wasn't shot at the library; it was shot on a green screen somewhere in Reading, and as good as CG and sets can be, and they're putting a bit more there, so that at least it's not like, like any of the Star Wars prequels, where it's a lot more removed, where it's more blue and green screen. But there is still something about being in a physical environment that exists, and there's people around and walking. There's an energy that comes with that you can't replicate in a computer. So like going back to watching Ghostbusters and still enjoying it even now, and appreciating it for what it was, and you just kind of sit there and wish, why didn't I really love to see a film like this made right now. Like, just not, CG's used at an absolute minimum. We're going to shoot a film like they used to, and see the kind of difference that would make, and the texture and the feel of what that film actually is. And as we go in the future, I'm sure there'll be new technologies that'll be to do battle against. I do miss that, and that's kind of part of that. I'm woefully nostalgic, so being able to go and not be put off by Ghostbusters, having know it so well inside and out, but I can still sit and enjoy it like I'm a 10-year-old kid again. So yeah, it's just the best.
Well, listen, we're three peas in a pod, so we could talk until the sun goes down here. So, but I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for the doc. Thank you for the book. I really look forward to reading it, and appreciate your time today.
No,
Thank you, Jeremy.
pleasure.
Thanks for having us and chatting, and a great interview. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That was Claire and Anthony Bueno, the duo behind Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters, and Claire's companion book of the same name. And I do love hearing about that journey of two young Ghostbusters fans from here in the UK, interviewing the likes of Harold Ramis, Sigourney Weaver, Dan Aykroyd, and their persistence and sheer determination to finish the film, even after all those setbacks with distribution and funding. It's pretty inspiring. It really is inspiring. And the way they've documented the work of those craftspeople and visual effects artists, people who rarely get their due, it really does align with what this podcast is all about. If you haven't seen Cleaning Up the Town, it's available on streaming platforms now, and Claire's 500-plus page companion book is available from Waterstones and Amazon, but don't buy it on Amazon. Go to an independent bookshop. Amazon have enough money. I've just cancelled my account with them. It's a brilliant read and a perfect extension of the film. As always, if you enjoy these conversations and want to help me keep making them, please do head over to patreon.com/Jamie Benning. Every bit of support really does make a difference. It could be like $12 for the year. I'm not talking per month, I'm talking for the whole year. That gives you 24 episodes minimum. So your support would be really appreciated. And don't forget to check out the Filmumentaries YouTube channel, where I'm adding more stuff, a few bits from the archive as well, some bits that I've had hanging around for years on other platforms that just haven't got the views. I think you might enjoy them, so check out the YouTube channel. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you can join me for the next episode of the Filmumentaries Podcast.
We are being way media.